Hi guys, we're just going to go through a quick hand-drawn plan version, and before we get to the hand drawing of the plan and exactly how that works, we've got to go back to the basics of showing a plan. And every time I show the plan, I'll have to remind myself of this. And step one is to connect with the prospect. Step two is to ease into the plan. And I'll briefly explain these points, but they are actually on various CDs and so on. The third step is the plan, and that's where I will focus today and just run through very quickly what I'm proposing as a hand-drawn plan. The fourth point is the close, like literally getting them closed, started on the spot to start a research process. And the final point is the next step. So those are the 5 points. That's the framework. I every time I go into a plan, I think about those so that I deliberately am moving through those. And I've done many plans. I still find it useful to be able to go through this that way. Now, let me just explain what's unique to the hand-drawn plan. Not so much unique, but actually how we would deal with these points in a different way in the beginning. So connecting, if you're in an environment, if you're in their home and you've got husband and wife together and you've got plenty of spare time, then connecting may be as detailed as doing a 10-year timeline. It might be very sophisticated connecting. Mostly when we're showing the plan, we don't have that sort of time up our sleeve. And sometimes doing something like a 10-year timeline will actually just cause an obstacle to actually getting the job done of showing the plan, and a real simple start. Just remember, the plan is purely the start of a process. It's the start of their research. That is all it is. And we're trying to make the plan conversational, just with a pen and paper, okay? So that's what it is. So we don't want to like overdo what's not necessary. And most of the people you're showing the plan to, you've got some sort of reason to show them anyway. They've already been complaining about work or complaining about not enough holidays or not enough money or whatever. And the connecting can be one sentence like, hey Joe, you mentioned that you were looking for ways to earn some extra income, or you were looking for ways to set that deposit up on your house. Sometimes it's just one sentence, right? Easing into the plan. Historically, there's been many ways to do that. Bring out a Robert Kiyosaki book, bring out a can of excess energy, bring out some protein bars, whatever, then set them aside, just show them a sort of range of product, mention companies like Telstra and so on. What I'm proposing, it can be even simpler than that. There's nothing wrong with doing some of those things, but it can be even simpler than that. So easing into the plan, you'll see when I start the plan, I might repeat some of these lines, but the first thing I would say, given the plan that we're trying to show them, is tell me, Joe, do you ever purchase anything online? Obviously, most people are going to virtually laugh and say, well, yes, of course. And sometimes I'll ask why, and you just want them to verbalize. When people say something in their own words, then it's the truth. When you tell somebody something, it's not the truth in their mind. So let them verbalize why they buy online. And I would then add things like, so, basically it's about benefits, isn't it? I mean, sometimes we get different sort of products than we can get. Sometimes we get better quality products. Sometimes it's just the convenience. Sometimes it's just it's just fun to order online. Would you agree? And questions like, would you agree, are really useful at that point. Then I would take it to the next level. And if you want to get detailed about asking them about which websites they currently go to, what sort of online shopping they currently do, it may be helpful. Again, it depends how much time you've got. But the points you're trying to get across is, well, tell me, Joe, have you noticed any of these websites give you incentives to come back? They might give you vouchers, or they might give you points, or basically just encourage you to come back, place another order. Have you noticed that? Again, everybody says yes. Then I will say, now have you also noticed that some websites, many websites now, are actually offering incentives for you, not only for you to go back, but for you to refer their website and their services to other people. Have you noticed that? And they will often say yes, obviously. And if not, I'll mention a couple. I mean, Uber is a very simple one, where if I refer new people to Uber, they get benefits, I get benefits, right? And most people are familiar with that. if just recently I had a bookings.com booking, and I was surprised to see that they offered a cashback, a small cashback amount if I referred somebody else to that booking as well. So I'll ask them and I'll give them those examples, and I'll ask them if they've got examples. And all of this is really useful when we get down to the plan and closing. So that's literally enough connecting, enough easing into the plan, and the most effective way to ease into the plan for the sort of plan we're going to be showing. So let me show you how I would go through the plan. And I would start about a third of the way down the page here, just draw a circle, just say, all right, so Joe, we've talked about going to some websites. Here you are, here's you. And I'm going to refer you to a website, and I'll just give you some examples right now. We've got things like literally home loans and finance. We've got things like Telstra phone plans. We've got things like energy, an energy company. So we've got little day-to-day items. I mean, everything from head to toe you could imagine using. So I'll talk about that more, but just conceptually at the moment, you understand that all we're doing is what you're already doing. All right, you're already going to websites, you're already purchasing online. And the difference here is the way it's financially structured. So do you mind if I go through that? And if you always ask things like, do you mind if I do this? Do you mind if I explain? Do you mind if I go through that? And you look at them, give them some eye contact. When they say yes, you start getting them nodding yes, and they follow the plan. They start to follow the whole thing. And you just say, like in our case, we actually have a really unique system. Well, I think it's unique, where we earn points. Every $4 we spend, roughly, we get 1 point. And what happens is those points accumulate over the month, and we literally get a cash back at the end of the month. No hidden tricks, nothing. Very simple. Accumulate points, get a cash back based on how many points you've accumulated. And I'm just going to give you a very, very simple example where you're doing 100 points in a month. So obviously that's $400. So I like to point things out like that to people so that they stay engaged. I then also like to have some eye contact with them. And then I just go down and say, well, okay, when you're doing 100 points, let's just say here's you, and on your own, you're doing 100 points. Let's just look at the sort of per month benefit that we would get, all right? So my experience is that, honestly, it should work out that you would benefit financially around about $100 a month. Some of that is literally what I would call, say, member discounts. I mean, as a member, you're getting cheaper pricing. I guess you've seen websites like that as well, or you're part of organizations like that as well. So there's like a member discount scenario. And my language here is more sort of member discount or benefits of going to the website rather than talk about wholesale versus retail. I just find that's much more effective in today's language and much more accurate and less argumentative with people who may want to sort of explore in detail the exact pricing structures and so on later. So when I talk about member benefits, member pricing like that, I will say, so there's some direct savings on every single item you purchase, and then there's some points cash back. And the way the points work is it starts at 100 points, which is what you're doing, and you get a 3% cash back. And it actually goes up in 3% increments like this. And I'm not going to go through a huge amount of detail on all of them, but just to show you very quickly how the scale works. So it goes all the way up to 21%. 100 points is 3%, 400 is 6%, 1,000 points is 9%, and upwards it goes. So in this instance, obviously you're doing 100 points, you get 3% cash back on your 100 points. And part of that makes up, that plus the member discounts makes up that roughly $100. I'm just putting a number there for the sake of it. You shouldn't, we're not going to be too focused on details at the moment. This is just a concept on how it works. Does that make sense? So I say, does that make sense on how the point structure works and that scale works and some of the discounts? And they usually just say yes with very few questions. If they have questions, I'd say, do you mind if I carry on? Because I think that'll kind of answer the questions as we go, but I'm happy to log that one up. So then I talk about, all right, so here we are, and you're doing what you've always done, but now you're getting some benefits. I'll give you a specific example. I mean, a Telstra phone plan I just recently took out. Honestly, it's at least 20% better off than had I walked into a Telstra store. So that's pretty significant. And, you know, those sorts of things lead me to, hey, want to talk to other people about it. I mean, everyone's got a phone, right? But there's many, many other benefits there. So if you look at this arrangement here and you say, okay, Now, Joe, if I was a friend of yours and you were getting benefits like this, would you tell me? and I chuckle and I say, I mean, if you went to a good movie today or you went to a good restaurant today, would you tell me about it? And chances are you would, right? I mean, you wouldn't keep it a secret. And I chuckle again. So, I really want to make the point there, because what we do in here is perfectly natural. And sometimes when we show the plan, we make out it's such a big deal and it's so different to everything on the planet. It really is not in today's marketing world, and particularly in the digital world. So I say, all right, Joe, so that's you. And you now telling me about this and you refer me to this. Well, let's just say this is me here. So what happens to me? Well, I get exactly the same benefits that you do, Joe. Exactly the same. I get everything that I've just talked about. And what's in it for you? Well, you referred me, so my points each month, and I'm just using an example of 100 here, but my points each month add up to your points, and that starts to move you up the scale. And that will mean some financial benefit to you later. But the great thing is, the deal that you got, the deal that I got, the deal that he gets, this person, it's all identical. We're all on the same page. So does that make sense? And they always go, yes. Okay? So, all right, I mean, let's just play the game and say, over a period of time, and there's no set number, but you refer this to, say, 10 people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right? There's no set number. There's just an example. All right? Does that make sense? Yep, great. So you refer this to 10 people. When there's you plus 10, the financial benefits now would be in excess of $250 a month. So the fact that you're getting benefits and some savings, now you've referred this to some other people, in addition to whatever you're getting there's an additional $250 a month cash back that you will earn from the scale. And the reason being, 10 people doing 100 points and yourself puts you over 1,000, puts you at the 9% cash back level, 9% cash back on all of that goes to you. They also get their share, 3%, but the net effect of that is you would clear about $250 a month. Does that make sense? And I said, look, to me, I've been to a lot of websites, I've got a lot of benefits, I've referred a lot of people to the same websites, and I've got, minimal benefit in some cases and zero benefit in the majority of cases. And personally, I just kind of like this. Does that make sense? Because we've all got exactly the same opportunity. So I say, great. I'm not sure that financially is a big deal to you, but if you walk past $250 lying on the floor, probably you'd bend over to pick it up, right? So I just say, all right. So you referred me. I'm a friend of yours. Now I've keep it a secret? Unlikely. All right. So here I am, and I refer this to a friend of mine. What does this guy get? This guy gets exactly the same benefits that you got, exactly the same benefits that I got. We're all on the same playing field, and I love that. Would you agree? That just is pretty simple and straightforward. And that's an important explanation point I found. So I would add that. All right. And let's just say this is Disneyland and we all do exactly 100 points. And I'll obviously explain all that later to you. So here we are. Now, also, I've got other friends. So what if I'm your friend? Great. But I've got other friends and I've referred this to 10 other people, for example. So now let's play the game. Let's assume we're in Disneyland and everybody actually does exactly the same thing. I mean, clearly that's not going to be exactly the way it works, but just to give you an idea that everybody here refers some people because they get in benefits, and the same logic as you referred me and I referred to my friends, same thing. Now, when you've got 10 people that have referred 10 people, that's 100 households basically represented, okay? So there's 100 households represented. And again, let's be in Disneyland and let's say we're doing 100 points each per household. That's 10,000 points. The maximum you need to achieve 21% is 7,500 points. So about 75 households. So if you're using this as an example as 100 households, you're now actually over that level. You're getting the full 21% benefit. what that equates to is it would be significantly over $4,000 a month cash back to you. Each of these people in turn has earned their own cash back directly from the company, from the website, right? So this is clear to you. Now, just as a frame of reference, we use, in this example, we would say that's feasible in a 6 to 24 month period for somebody who's just having a go at this on a part-time basis. Now, and sometimes this is a good time to stop and do two things. Give a personal example if you are at the 21% level above, how long it took you. Even if it took you longer than 24 months, you can actually just point out, look, from the day I actually got serious about this, it took literally 6 months or whatever the time frame is accurate for you. But sure, I was involved and getting benefits for 4 years, but this is how long it took me. So I would claim that. I would also talk about other people, and in our case, I say it took us 20 months to get to that stage. And we were new in Sydney. We didn't know anybody. I mean, honestly, I wasn't upset with that. I actually thought that was a miracle that we were able to do that. So you stop there and do those sort of examples. The second thing you do is, based on what you said earlier, and you're referring to your connecting point when you might have been talking about holidays or pay rises or travel or all those sorts of things. Based on what you're saying, I mean, that would probably make a difference to you. Would you agree, or does that make sense? And so that's $1,000 a week clear. So every Saturday morning, there's $1,000 lying on your kitchen table that you didn't have the previous week. And it comes in every Saturday morning, every Saturday morning, every Saturday morning. And you may want to stop there, and depending on how much time you got, just ask them, what would that actually mean to you? And this is really where you want to spend your time. That income level is enough for anybody. And I've shown professionals with very high income levels, and that additional income is massive, particularly when we point out a lot of the products we're talking about here are consumables, repeat type purchases. So that is a stable type turnover and an ongoing type income you can create, right? So I then just want to finish off a bigger picture very quickly in a minute or two. And I say, all right, just imagine now, I'm a good friend of yours. I've been inspired by your example, and I go and do the same. Imagine I set up 100 households, a team of 100 households, exactly the same way you did. Now let's just take it a step further. Let's say there's 3 people that you have helped set up that go off and set up 100 households. Okay? Does that make sense? I stop and make sure this is clear with them. I say, when you have 3 teams, if you like, let's call them teams, that have set up 100 households, simply done what you've done, that is now worth over $7,000 a month, and can be significantly more than that. We often say on a part-time basis that's achievable in a 2 to 4 year period. I say personally I didn't do it in 4 years, but I've certainly seen many people do it in 4 years or less. So if you've achieved the Emerald, you can certainly talk about it. But if you haven't, you can talk about an upline or talk about an example you've seen at the business preview. Our point here is to give an example and tell a story. Our point is not to exaggerate. Oh, look, everybody I've met's done this in 2 years. No, that's not the point. The point is, hey, I know this couple, and in fact, I'd love to introduce you to them. I've mentioned to you already that there's a function coming up on Tuesday night, which, by the way, you always want to be, before you start a plan and you're just talking, you want to talk about the fact that, listen, I'm going to go through a couple of concepts here, but I really want you to meet a couple of people I'm in business with, and Tuesday night's a possibility. Just keep that free in your mind for now, but let's go on. So now I'm referring back to, I'd like to introduce you to a couple that I know, Fred and Mary, and, she wanted to be a stay-at-home mum. They got 2 small kids. They wanted to pay off their mortgage, and they really attacked this in a hurry and got it done in 3 years. Okay, so give an example. If there's an example, tell a story to make the point, but we don't want to labour the point, and we do not ever need to exaggerate, because it's good enough without exaggerating. Then we say, all right, let's pretend we're still in Disneyland, and we continue. What would happen, and this is my final example, if you had 6 teams set up 100 households, that would actually mean that you would be earning over $20,000 a month at that stage. Okay? obviously pretty significant income, and obviously most people starting perhaps to wonder about that. But it all goes back to very simple steps we talked about. The good news is I can introduce you to people at all of those levels, and there's a proven success record here. Now this is an important part. So this is a very much does that make sense? Great. Okay, have you seen anything like this? This is where you would now have a bit of a conversation. If Amway has not come up before this, then it can come up now, and you would explain, hey, you know how I mentioned Telstra and finance options and Click Energy and Hertz rental cars and all these things? That's all under the umbrella of the Amway Corporation. I mean, probably you've come across part of that in the past, one way or another. So that is where you deal with the Amway side if it's not come up before that. I would listen to them. I would then go, now, Joe, I've forgotten what your name is. Everything I've shown you here is absolute fantasy. This will not happen. Like I say, I like to shock people a bit and get their attention, and that's why I don't want to spend too much time on the Amway part. It's irrelevant what they've seen of Amway, really. I just want to get back to this, and I'll often ask them, have you ever seen anything like this before? And even if they've been in Amway or seen Amway before, I will ask them, yes, but have you actually seen the business explained this way? And because since the world has gone online, this business has come to the front door. Amway very much used to be a back alley sort of business that had an unusual business concept. With the internet, it's just brought this out on the front line with everyone else doing business in the most modern of terms, right? So very relevant just in terms of you understanding how this works. But this won't work. Okay, you've probably met people that, or know of people, if not, you will meet people that have been in Amway and they'll say Amway didn't work for them. Well, Amway doesn't work. This does not work. This is the Amway Marketing Plan. It does not work on its own. Just like a computer does not work on its own. A computer needs software. Our software to drive this, to make all of this work, is called Network 21. And what that is a training and education system, which is actually the largest of its type in the world. But the key to that is there are audios where we can learn every aspect of the business. This friend of yours may be interested more in health. You may not ever dive deep into the health side. What are the health benefits of all of our unique products? This person may be interested more in skincare. Maybe a stay-at-home mum that wants to just earn some money on the skincare side, perhaps while her kids are at school. It could be a number of things. This might be your friend who's a personal trainer and he simply wants to add value to his clients, but also set up an income stream outside of his own personal training and relying on his dollars per hour. So I'll give a couple of examples like that, but I'll say everybody here will have different questions, come from different angles, want to earn different incomes, want to do it at a different speed than you. But the good news is there are audios that can help them achieve everything. And I'm going to flick you an audio straight after we leave here, but you kind of get the concept there. We're talking about duplication. This is fantasy. This will not happen unless we've got a mechanism for duplication. So we've got audios. The other thing we got that is critical is functions. We have business functions. I mentioned to you earlier the Tuesday night. So we have functions which